Hi everyone, welcome to our weekly Sunday sit. I see many familiar faces, it makes me really happy. So this event is put on by the residents of the Monastic Academy, which is a full-time residential training program in mindfulness and leadership. And today we have a really special speaker, Rosie Jaye, who is actually going to be leaving us. So this is what we would say casually is her goodbye sit, but we hope it's our see you later skit. And I just want to say that it's kind of special for me to get to introduce Rosie, because Rosie introduced me to the Monastic Academy. And I was just a wee little intern summer ago. And Rosie's the head of, and has been the head of, all of the management of our buildings and grounds and kitchen in the monastery. So she does everything that you sit on or see or eat, consume. That's her realm of responsibility. So it's a lot. It's definitely at least 2 full-time jobs, at least. So we really appreciate that she does that. But on top of that, even she takes care of those interns and apprentices and guests that come into our doors. And I was one of the first interns, the second batch, and it's just really, it's amazing to see how far we've come together and how far you've come in the time that I've seen you grow.
Ditto.
It's like 2 different people seeing 2 different people. But I guess the thing I'll say is that we'll really miss her presence, her joy, the joyful kid-like energy that she brings to the monastery. In the summer we run around playing soccer, and you always care for me whenever we see each other after being away from the monastery for a week of visiting family or something, and seeing you always brings me like immediately. It's so easy and feels so good every time I see you. So with that being said, I offer our evening program. Well, Rosie will be giving a talk and then a guided meditation. And feel free if you like to use the bathroom during any of this. There's water also for your comfort, and move around as you like. Enjoy.
I'm really grateful for that introduction. It gave me a moment to settle into my body and just appreciate this experience and take this time to reflect on 16 months as a resident of the Monastic Academy and really share with you what it's like to be with my foot into another world in that fork of transition, that space of transition. This is also a talk about decision making, and I'm curious if anyone's ever had trouble making an important decision in their lives. I'm an expert in indecision, so I've had a lot of personal experience of being in that uncomfortable place and trying to find algorithms and systems that work to try to get through that space into the space of doing something, getting out of thought and into action. When I was 18 years old, I was choosing college, and I was stuck between 2 perfect schools, which felt like the worst thing in the world to me. Although in retrospect, of course, that's kind of a beautiful problem to have. After much deliberation, I ended up going to one, and a year later I transferred and went to the other. And what I learned from this, a lesson that I've continually been forced to learn or listen to over and over again because it hasn't quite gotten through, is that both schools were perfect. Both schools were good enough. And it was my own mind that needed an upgrade. So the lesson here, and really I think the theme of this talk, is that when we are able to make a decision fully, learn a lesson fully, hear our bodies fully, we only need to do it once. And we save ourselves countless moments of feeling the same thing or going through the same thing. I have two quotes. One's a beautiful poem that I love so much by Robert Frost. It's The Road Not Taken, which maybe some of you have heard before. But the first part is, 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. So that's the beginning of this poem. He's looking out at this path that's forking, and he wishes he could be 2 people so that he could travel both roads. And that's something I've experienced so much in my life, and I'm sure many people can relate. I want to do both. I don't want to lose the option of both. So there is a distinct discomfort in indecision, in being in the place of not knowing, in being in the place where you are choosing and are forced to choose. But there's also a very interesting and subtle comfort, at least for me. And the comfort for me is marinating in this space of anything is possible. And the world is open to me. I haven't stepped towards one direction and let go of every other option. And so for me, the reason why I've held so long to indecision in my life is because the pain of letting go of the dreams available to me were almost unacceptable, terribly frightening. The fear of the future, of making a decision that would change the rest of my life forever. The fear of pain, of losing something that I care deeply about. And also the fear of regret, of looking back on that time and wishing I had done something differently. But it's interesting because one of the most important decisions, life decisions I've made in my 26 years wasn't a decision at all. And that was becoming a resident at the Monastic Academy. So 2 years ago, I came as a guest. I was working on a master's thesis exploring the intersection of mindfulness and death care. And it was this amazing place, this refuge, where I was able to get out of Philadelphia, where I was living, and come to a community that was truly supportive in a way that I had been craving for a very long time. It wasn't on my 10-year life plan. It wasn't really in line with, or to my mind, it wasn't in line with the goals I had for my life. And I didn't really know that much about meditation, but I came here and I came alive. In a lot of ways I unnumbed. That was something that sort of was a necessity of being in the city, of caring and not having a community who cared with me. So the first things I felt when I came to the monastery were pain, sadness, loss, things that had been sort of calloused away. But I still didn't think that being a monastic was rosy. I remember sort of talking with Miles Bouquet, a past resident in Peter Park, about it, and just not really seeing how I fit that mold or how that could be a life choice for me. So I went off, I finished my program, my thesis, went back to California, and truly, without my conscious decision, found my arm reaching out to apply to become a resident, to become a trial resident. I was living in Santa Cruz at the time, doing really meaningful volunteer work with Food Not Bombs, which is a really cool organization. And I was dancing and I was feeling alive in a way that I hadn't in so long. But something was really missing, and that was being deeply of service on a moment-to-moment basis, putting my life into what I thought was, into my values, into what I thought was best for the world. But it's interesting because I didn't sit down and make a pros and cons list as I so often have in the past. And I didn't sit down and use Forel's decision-making algorithm, which I will share with you because it is an amazing tool. None of that was really used at all. The wisdom of my body somehow sort of navigated my body to make this decision. And I kept telling myself, okay, it's a 3-month trial, so I'll go for 3 months. And as soon as I walked back through the doors there, I knew I was going to have to find a way to tell my family that this was going to be a year or more. Just immediately, just being back in the building. And this really is my chance to celebrate with all of you. What a gift this experience and this place has been and is for everyone who has the opportunity to walk through its doors or come to one of these meetings. Even for me, being in Burlington and immediately, just as a guest, feeling welcome in this community was something that I never felt growing up in San Diego, California, which can be a very anonymous place, and never really felt in any big city. So I'm sort of celebrating the fact that that is a very special thing. A thing that has allowed the necessary disintegration that comes along with committing to a year or more of monastic training, which is incredibly rigorous and something that I've referred to as the best and worst year of my life. The best and worst. And also the year of spiritual stretch marks. Because I have grown a lot, far beyond my capacity to lead or delegate or be with my emotions or my body or communicate my experience or be able to hear someone when they're communicating their truth to me. And that is something that I'm maybe more grateful for than anything else. I recently went back to California while the rest of the residents and interns were doing this March retreat, and that brought up all of these questions again of how do we make decisions in a way that moves beyond the smallness of our own minds. And it's something I'm currently curious about, something that on a day-to-day basis still gives me challenges. The one major insight that I'd like to share today is this concept of burning the boats. Has anyone heard of this concept? So, oftentimes I'll make a decision and then I'll make it again and I'll make it again and I'll make it again because I haven't really committed myself to it. So, I'll make one decision, but then in my head I'll think maybe I'll do the other thing or the other thing. Back and forth. Burning the boats is a concept that comes from the Vikings, who would often sail to fight a warring clan. And in order to truly make their tribe united in their effort, the leader would order the boat to be burned. So really, you either win or you die. You die trying. In my own life, I can think of two really clear examples. One where I was able to do this and one where I wasn't able to do this. I was living in Philadelphia during my master's program and wasn't sure if I wanted to be living there. And really constantly, almost on a daily basis, was doubting whether that was where I wanted to be. I never unpacked my bags. For months. I was there for almost a year. And every month I would think, okay, maybe this is the last month I pay rent. Maybe I find a subletter, maybe I go back to San Diego. So much energy was going into this. So much energy was going into this indecision rather than into all these other things. All these things that matter to me. The program is focused on positive psychology, on cultivating human flourishing. How many more countless hours could have been spent focusing on trying to make the people's lives around me better or focusing on better self-care for myself. Fast forward to being a guest at the monastery and then moving to Santa Cruz for a few months before becoming a resident. In that time, I immediately unpacked my bags and good fortune flooded in immediately. A community, a place to practice ecstatic dance, volunteer work that felt meaningful to me within less than 24 hours of being there. So I didn't burn my clothes, but I took them out of their suitcase. And in a way, I think maybe that was enough. I have one more quote that I want to share with you. This is actually from another resident, Pan, that he posted randomly, and I thought it was really fitting. It may be that when we no longer know what to do, we've come to our real work. And that when we no longer know which way to go, we have begun our real journey. The mind that is not baffled is not employed. The impeded stream is the one that sings. So this is one of many explorations that have been possible by being a resident of the Monastic Academy. It's a spiky nest that holds you gently and also forces your growth. And the way it was described best to me, I think, was that the center is a very tight feedback loop. And if you are not practicing, you're almost immediately suffering. Which is a true gift, because it means that instead of going your whole life running from the things that are uncomfortable, you're constantly confronted by yourself. And instead of living in that place of magical realism or dreaming, you are constantly pulled into reality and taught how to be in reality. While I have the chance, I thought it might be interesting to share 3 goals that I came into the monastery with. The first was to play tennis with Soryu. That has not happened. The second was to bring the divine feminine to the monastery. And I don't know, Autumn, if we've done that. I think
Probably.
we got ourselves.
I don't even know what the
Yeah, that's exactly why I'm here. Yeah. So I'm less sure about that than I was in the beginning. Maybe that's a good thing.
I know the third, I remember, you
Yeah.
texted them to me.
Yeah.
Like you wrote them down and took a photo. The third was don't get kicked out.
I have not gotten kicked out. There are 2 weeks and change. So I'll keep doing my best with that. One of my favorite insights of my time at the monastery is the separation of intimacy from sexuality. And this is one of the things I'm most grateful for, is the space to be able to distance myself from unhealthy sexuality and still have incredibly rich and intimate relationships with a supportive community. And I don't think that I would have done that if I hadn't been in a community that supported that or allowed that to happen. So it's been quite a year of like committing to no sexual misconduct, which is one of the 5 ethical precepts that we vow to uphold, and also a year of growing in integrity with myself. For me, that has looked like making building a stronger bond with myself, and actually being able to commit to, for example, commit to making a decision and not second guessing it or allowing myself to waver. That's one of the growth points that I needed to meet. And for a lot of people, they might have a growth point that is challenging them to be more open to the possibility that the decision they made or are making needs to be reconsidered. So I'm in no way saying that the truth about making healthy decisions is to make a decision and stick with it, and that's the way that you have integrity with yourself. It really is so much cloudier than that and so much more vibrant than that. But for me, the guiding light has been, how do I cultivate a trustworthy relationship with myself? Because what I'm realizing is that I'm the one who has to live in this body, in this mind, in this life, you know, until my expiration date, whenever that may be. You know, and the only people who come close to that, you know, are maybe my parents, significant other, teacher. And even those really, for all of us, don't hold the same intensity as the relationship, the daily moment-to-moment relationship we have with ourselves. Having any sort of mindfulness practice, one in which we cultivate the ability to be understanding, forgiving, compassionate with our quirks and with our blockages. That has been the difference between truly having disdain for myself and moving towards having joy. And it's something that I think is at the core of what people promise when they say true peace. When they promise that mindfulness or a meditation practice or the ability to be in our bodies can bring us true peace. And it's so much more tumultuous of a road than I ever expected it to be. But I know that the tool of observation never changes. What I'm observing does change, or what it's observing does change. So the beautiful decision-making algorithm that For All created is a way of bringing your body into the decision-making process, so that as you pull up one possible way of moving forward, your ability to verbally imagine what it would be like, or visually imagine what it would be like, or emotionally experience what it would be like, allow you to really experience your decision. And even as I talk about this, it brings up fear for me. Like, that can hurt me. like being in my body is not the refuge that it actually is. So I guess the question that feels most alive for me before moving into a meditation practice together is what does being in our bodies have to offer us? What wisdom is already there? What wisdom are we not listening to that already has the next step for us? Because I'm noticing that the moments when I'm able to get out of my own way are the moments when things seem to flow naturally, and this mirage of a decision that needs to be made, this mirage of duality, that there is a right or a wrong, there is I will do this or I won't do this, as tangible as it feels, seems to loosen its grip when my body's leading the way and my mind is just filling out the paperwork. So it seems clear to me that if we're able to learn a lesson fully, we won't have to learn it 1,000 times. If we're able to make a decision fully, burn the boats, unpack our bags, whatever it takes to fully commit to what we're doing, we'll have exponentially more energy for the tasks at hand, for the things that really require everything we have. And now is an important opportunity to be able to put this into practice, to work with some decision that you might have. So find a comfortable position. Feel free to close your eyes if you like. And now bring to mind a decision you're working with. In order to simplify it, we'll have I will do this, or I will do that, and I will not do this. I will eat dairy, I will not eat dairy. I will do good, I will not do good. Hold on to the first. I will do such and such. Repeat it to yourself as clearly as you can until you can really feel it. Now let that go and bring up, I will not do such and such. Repeat it until you can feel it fully. Now bring up I will again. And as you hear the statement, allow any visual imagery that comes with it to fill your visual field. Now let that fall away and bring I will not to your mind. Allow any visual imagery that comes with it to fill your visual field. Now let that fall away. And as you bring I will words and images up, allow any emotional, physical sensations that come with it to fill your awareness. Now let that fall away. Bring I will not to your awareness and allow any emotional or physical sensations that arise to fill your awareness. Now go back to I will, repeating just the words to yourself. Switch to I will not, just the words. Bring your awareness to I will with imagery. What visual pictures represent this statement? Now explore the visual images that come with I will not. Now, one final time, bring your awareness to I will and any emotional or physical sensations that arise. Now let that fade. When emotional and physical sensations arise with I will not. Good. Now allow all thoughts, feelings, images of I will or I will not fade away, dissolve, as we do one final piece to this meditation. Allow your body to fall into a state of rest. Focus on the darkness of your eyelids or a restful gaze. Allow this feeling of rest to permeate through your whole body. And from this state of rest, allow yourself to emerge into one of two paths. Perhaps you've emerged with a state of absolute clarity. If this is the case, take the chance to celebrate this clarity, to feel it fully. Perhaps you're experiencing confusion. If this is the case for you, feel this confusion fully. Enjoy it fully. This confusion has a lesson for you to learn. To deny this confusion would be to deny learning this important lesson. I invite you to thank yourself in your own way for doing this good work. Thank you for doing this work together. Now you have a few minutes to get up and stretch, move your body, or get water, and I will ring the bell to call you back for another guided meditation. For this last guided meditation, I know something that's been really important to me in transitioning is finding gratitude in every moment, in every experience as it hits me. Even if there's the painful feeling of loss, finding gratitude for that as well. So this next guided meditation will be accompanied by some beautiful piano music by our very own Samshin Russell. Feel free to close your eyes if you wish. Stretch up and settle in. This is an opportunity for you to bring to mind people experiences, things that you're grateful for. It can come in the form of thoughts, visual imagery, emotional sensations. This is a time for you to both give and receive. Maybe there's indecision or doubt that you're currently working with. How can you bring gratitude? Offer gratitude. Experience gratitude within that. If you're having trouble feeling gratitude, perhaps you can access its cousins, joy, excitement, tenderness, appreciation, sadness. Where do you feel these emotions in your body. What do they look like and sound like? Try to visualize as clearly as you can people, places, things, experiences that you feel grateful for. Try to picture them as clearly as you can in your mind. Allow any love and care and appreciation you feel to overflow. Sending it back to those people, places, things, experiences. Is there any gratitude you can access for the experience of this moment? And in these final few moments, is there a way for you to offer compassion to yourself, gratitude to yourself? thank you for doing this work together. Now is the time for questions and comments and discussion between the community. Peter.
I noticed during one of the guided meditations when we were cultivating gratitude, and you named a bunch of cousin emotions, and emotionally it felt correct, but I was surprised when you said sadness as a cousin. I was wondering if you could elaborate on that.
Yeah, the reason that I shared that is because my experience of gratitude is often very bittersweet or melancholy. I often feel like right now choking up feeling in my throat, which I connect with sadness. And you said that it felt right emotionally, but maybe cognitively it surprised you.
Yeah.
What made it feel emotionally right? Or how did you know it felt emotionally right?
I think I was feeling some sadness at the time, as well as the gratitude, so it seemed like it fit in, but I was still surprised when I heard the word out loud for some reason.
I know for me particularly in times of transition, sadness comes along with gratitude. In fact, joy and sorrow seem to be two currents in the same river for me in almost every moment of my life. But there may be moments of gratitude that are strictly joyful. I used my experience of gratitude in this moment as the benchmark, so it's definitely not the only experience that's possible. But I know that sometimes it can be hard to access gratitude. What does it feel like? How do I cultivate it? Where is it in my body? And so I offered cousins like joy and appreciation as alternatives. If excitement is something that you feel really familiar with and you know how to access it in your body, then that might be your personal gateway to cultivating gratitude or being able to pull it up on cue. That's my attempt.
It felt good sometimes.
Tony, did you have?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for a really great guided sit. I connected with the when you're talking about the wisdom of the body and settling in to that, moving from the head to the heart, essentially, that kind of thing. And, I remember when I was a younger individual, I knew essentially excitement and anger, and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's been quite a long journey for me. And I'm surprised, I'm often surprised at, still, even at this stage in my life, how difficult it is to me to connect into my body. It's just, for whatever reason, I was never very capable at that. And I feel that your guided meditation brought me there. And it felt good. And I think one time when Sanchin's playing the piano, there was like had some body pain, and you know, I still felt like joyful and full of gratitude. And I think a lot of that just had to do with, you know, your being around, just watching your journey, and seeing that it's possible, you know, that people do grow and they do change. And so I feel that you've been, you know, a kind of an inspiration, I think probably to a lot of people. So thank you for that.
Thank you for that. Yeah, so beautiful to hear. The first part of what you said reminded me of the reason I came to the monastery in the first place, which was I wanted to become an expert in driving the human machine. So I wanted to read the manual. I wanted to take the time to do what I hadn't done in 25 years, 26 now. And the surprising insight that I've come to is that just being in the body, being in the machine, being in the passenger seat is enough, is a huge step towards being on the path or being on the journey. So even if I never become an expert in driving this, as Peace Pilgrim would say, this clay garment around, there is so much wisdom in just being in there, and it's incredibly hard too, which is why I offered, you know, trying to bring gratitude to whatever it is you're experiencing, which is kind of a creative endeavor, you know. Where is there a place to plant gratitude in this back pain or in this moment of discomfort, or where is it hiding in those moments already?
You know, one of the things I was reflecting on was I saw this thing online where there was a little boy, maybe 8 or 9 or 10 years old, and he is colorblind. And there's glasses now that you can get that makes so that colorblind people can see. And it was a video of this boy out in nature, and they brought him his glasses, and he opens them up and he puts them on, and the look on, I mean, his reaction, the visceral, physical reaction, just from the being able to see colors, I thought, you know, I would like to just be like that, to just to open my eyes in the morning, right, and learn to see, you know, like right now, like, why am I not like that? But you know, we're not, so at least I'm not. But that would be kind of nice to have a taste of that.
To be in awe
Yeah.
every moment.
Not meant to be.
I think you can get there.
Let me try. Yeah. Nice goal.
Well, I just thought, first of all, I'd quickly, it sounds like you're basically saying goodbye here. Is that correct?
So my time as a resident will end April 7th.
Okay, so a little ways from now, but just reflecting on sort of knowing you over this time, I remember meeting you at India House. It was my first contact with this overall group. Aside from having done contact improv a bit with, and sorry, names are terribly blanking on me. Autumn, right? but as a group, and just having a conversation with you and sort of seeing like what was bringing you here and your enthusiasm for things, and also like perspectives. And it's interesting now to sort of see that over time, sort of, cross-sectionally at different points where you've taken different paths with it and you've gone through different places with it. But I just wanted to express sort of a value of having you as part of that, and that certainly just that feeling of connection with having a relatively in-depth conversation and stuff, and seeing that sort of sense of common interest was part of what certainly attracted me to be part of this overall community and develop a curiosity about it. And I'm really grateful to sort of have that connection. And I think when you talk about divine feminine, I'm a little ambivalent about that as sort of an archetypal thing, because I think that femininity is really sort of a byproduct of a biological dichotomy and stuff. But on the other hand, you're female, and you're bringing divinity into your life, and you're shaping that, and you're exploring that with things like sexuality and identity and other kinds of things. And so of course you're bringing divine femininity to the environment.
It's interesting you bring that up, because first of all, thank you so much for sharing. I feel like I've learned so much about receiving and feminine energy from some of the male residents at the monastery, which has been amazing to learn and to have role models for how to be a receiver, a listener, like a person who's able to nourish and care intuitively, and on and on and on. I feel like I could speak for a long time about that, but deep gratitude to the experience of being at the monastery and other residents who have really modeled aspects of, the quote-unquote divine feminine that transcends, like you said, that transcends gender.
I know we've worked closely in the time I've been here, and I had a lot of conversations about care and bodies, and that's obviously a topic we go around a lot in our training. And that technique, the guided meditation we went through, was really valuable to me. It was really clear the whole time I was going back and forth between these decisions or possible paths. And then at the end, when you're like, can you emerge upon one of them? I emerged on the opposite one I expected to. And I was like, I didn't realize that there obviously needs here, that although I find my fulfillment on this obvious choice, that there's obviously something else there that, I can find balance in. So it's really going to be something I take into my life, and it's going to be just very valuable. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm so sorry for that. I keep thinking that I'll be able to intellectually intuit what the wisdom of my body will tell me the right path is. And that's a perfect example of the mystery and the magic that can come out when we we drop the thinking mind and have tools, to do that.
Rosie? Thank you.
Carolyn.
That was really beautiful. Thank you also. Sandra, that was really beautiful piano and really moving. Yeah, that was a really good meditation for me, and the decision making was interesting because I went into it not thinking I had any decisions to make. You know, I'm pretty well satisfied with my life as it is. And yet when I opened up to the idea of decisions, or just open that space, I found that on a much subtler level, that I was kind of stuck. And the decision was to allow my life to change, transform, not externally so much. Although there were elements that once I opened up, I could see that there were pieces of the external that could shift around a bit, but it wasn't like big decision D, like a D decision, but more like some fundamental decisions about how I live my life, that I realized I was stuck. Like I saw the stuckness. And anyway, then I had all this other realizations about other parts of my life that seemed like they were the worst times in my absolute worst times of my life. I was so lonely, so desperate, and yet I was like, oh my God, I was so alive and so connected to myself and to God. And even in my despair and loneliness, I forgot that I had something then that I kind of lost. Yeah.
So some remembering seemed to bubble up for you, maybe,
Yeah.
or like some clarifying of values.
Yeah, that's probably a good way of putting it. And it's just something I didn't expect, I guess, just opening that space and decisions. And you just open this whole thing that was completely unknown to me.
And I could totally understand why you would keep that shut. If it's wisdom that would change the way you live your life, or shift the way you are in your world, that's, at least for me, that can be really threatening. Like, everything's the way it is for a reason. So to have things shift and change, or have new insight, new wisdom, new truth, allow myself to be with new truth.
It was kind of like what you said earlier about numbing. There was just a numbing that I wasn't even aware that was numbing.
Yeah.
Kind of experience. Yeah.
And I think ultimately, bottom line, the ability to go into this unknown takes so much courage. At least that's the thing that I keep coming back to, is having courage and seeing what's really there, being with the reality of it. Thank you.
Good luck on your journey.
Thank you. Feel much more ready than before being here. And something that stuck with me, that story you said, is that the monastery goes with you wherever you are. So. For better or for worse. You can take the sash off, but You still have to live with yourself.
The one word that comes to mind is sanctuary. You emanate that. Thank you.
I want to thank you so much, Rosie, for sharing your journey with us over these last 16 months, and where you sit today in terms of the decision-making algorithm. I love that too, and you presented it beautifully, and I know that you used it for your decision to go at this time, or I assume that. So I just have the utmost confidence in you, with all you've learned. And the piano and the gratitude was an amazing combination. I mean, the music just dropped me into gratitude immediately and took me through all kinds of planes and experiences of gratitude. So I really appreciate that essentially. It was a beautiful team effort. So thank you.
It reminds me of how grateful I am to have a team at the monastery, because it means that none of us have to have all the pieces. And Scott, having you come in with all of your carpentry experience and your automotive experience and your nonviolent communication experience is a true gift. And I know this is your last day too, so I'm really appreciating that transition and having you there with us.
How do you cultivate courage?
It feels more like dropping everything else. Dropping fear. It's like courage is the backbone. It's the bones. It's what's holding me together. And fear is a shield or a blanket or something that's preventing courage to shine through. And in addition to that, remembering what my values are, what I stand for, what is worth living for. Remembering that life is very short and that the amount of time and energy I have to give in this lifetime is limited can help the unimportant minutiae fall away and give me more clarity and more courage. I'm curious if you have an answer to that.
You just did it.
We have a few more minutes. If anyone else feels like sharing anything, questions or comments. Okay.
With the decision-making meditation, it wasn't until pretty far along into the practice that I kind of came to the realization that the question that I was asking was not to do something or not to do it.
Mhm.
It was to do something or to do whatever else
Mhm.
or whatever else. And to, yeah, I don't know that there's really a question in there, but could you comment on
Yeah.
that?
So there's a very specific reason why the decision-making algorithm is either one or the other. So, or a dichotomy or very simple duality. So I will do blank or the exact opposite. I will not do that. I will do this thing or I will not do this thing. You know, I will eat the cupcake or I will not eat the cupcakes. And this simplifies the decision that you're making. It might not be as nuanced or as true as the real decision you're making. It sounds like it's a lot more complicated than I will do this or I will not do this. Does that feel true to you? That it's more complicated than that? But the process of simplifying into I will or I won't do this can be very valuable, even if you have to strip away some of the nuances of what you're deciding. And sometimes I have found that the question I'm asking is the wrong question. Soryu's helped me figure that out before. Like, really, you know, it's like a question of honesty, you know, instead of a question of following desire, you know, question of what value are we actually working with. So you can try one yes or no, I will or I won't, and if that doesn't get to the heart of what you're asking, you can try another. Does that?
Yes.
That's good.
Thank you.
Django?
Yes, during the talk there was some sadness or something for me, and it was like seeing all of your gifts and seeing you come. Like, I'm just picturing all of you came at this really, there's a lot of transition happening and you were figuring out how to make all this work at the monastery. You were there for that. And I was picturing if you would come now, and how I think it would have been like more joyful. But I just want to express like you were there for like as we figured all this stuff out, and it was amazing to do it out with you, you know.
Yeah, completely agree. And I wouldn't change any of it. I am so much stronger for the challenges of our unfolding, you know, our evolution as an organization. And I think maybe the things that have been most challenging, like holding the role of 2 or 3 people at once, or, you know, trying to toggle between various tasks that don't actually go together, that don't use the same part of your brain. I think that probably is what is going to make the most lasting impression on me and my ability to have confidence that I can do hard things. So, grateful for that. Very grateful for that.
Well, Rosie, let me finish this off.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you for this evening. Thank you for the brilliant guidance. You did not teach the decision-making algorithm in the way I ever have. And I think that, of course, most of it was the same, but you made significant improvements. especially at the end. I've never taught it that way, and I think that was, for this context, better than I would have taught it. So I really appreciate your creativity and the work that you put in so that creativity will bear fruit for others. Also, thank you so much for your presence for the past more than a year. Your personality has been a great gift, a miracle actually, just what has been needed. Your work, the real work that you've done, has changed the entire community every day. I know that some of us here may think that up in Lowell we just sit around all day and enjoy the peace and quiet. But that's not what it's like. We work really, really hard, and you have not only done intensive meditative training for several hours a day, whether you like it or not, but you've literally done 2 jobs, meaning the amount of work that a lot of people do at their job. You've done 2 of those and done all of that. With the food, you go shopping, you get back at who knows when, right? You get back at 9, 10 o'clock, constantly trying to figure out how to get better food, healthier food, less expensive food that's better for the environment, on and on. You've dealt with crises, again and again, a real crisis that you've dealt with regularly, and we really appreciate that. And then finally you have taken deep, powerful, profound strides in your path of awakening, path of transcendence, that give us the strength to live our lives truly. So thank you for all of that. We very much appreciate our relationship with you, and as far as I'm concerned, not now, not in 2 weeks, not ever will that relationship be broken due to any sort of place where you're living or whatever you're doing. That relationship has transcended all of that already and will continue to. So very glad to know you, be with you, and have trained with you for so long.
Thank you so much. So I think that's it. We have a couple announcements.
So thank you everyone for coming and joining this gathering. It really brought me a lot of joy to see everyone here in community with Rosie at this, for now at least, last Sunday.